to Take It from the Iron Woman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Iron Woman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Iron Woman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. Take it from the Iron Woman. We only have special guests, and today is actually a real special moment. We have Maura Kelly with us, and she bid on an online auction item to be on a podcast. How cool is that? So it's part of the EdSnaps family. I call it a family. EdSnaps' mission is to help and support the STEM education of young female students. And I'm sure we're going to hear more. Maura is a senior advisor for EdSnaps. Welcome, Maura. Introduce yourself to the listeners. Who is Maura who's going to join us today?
Well, hello, Suzanne. Pleasure to be here. And yes, Maura Kelly, I'm principal of Purple Mountain Media.
Seems like a big job. And let's read from your biographies. Maura Kelly is a director, advisor, diversity advocate, and multiple Emmy Award-winning producer. Through her consultancy practice, Purple Mountain Media, she applies her extensive media and broadcasting experience to client collaborations and develops program initiatives, events, and partnerships. We can go on, but let's hear from you. Where was the beginning? And I'm always curious to find out what triggered you to become who you are today.
Well, let me start with where I am now. You mentioned a number of different titles in the consultant and project director and diversity advocate with Purple Mountain Media. And I focus on about 3 different areas: program initiatives and events. I do engagement campaigns, and I love to do strategic partnerships. This really gives me an opportunity to apply my 20 years of media and broadcast experience producing media campaigns, building audiences, to client collaborations. I've been in television for many years, and I've done so many things, traveled the country and worked around the world, creating great programming, and then also creating campaigns and distributing around the country. I do that with clients, helping them with different initiatives, different communities they want to reach. And obviously, the theme that runs through it is producing big events and media that really kind of captivate people, apply all that knowledge to current client collaboration.
I want to know, how did it start? You were 10-year-old and you wanted to be on TV, or where were the pivotal moments that you got into this avenue of also inspiring women, not only women, but inspiring people, putting big events together? What sparked that interest?
Well, I think in college, I decided I wanted to go into media, television. I had some family members who worked in television and they worked in theater, and they always work with interesting people on interesting topics. And I thought, okay, that's a very creative career they have. And I wanted something similar that was really going to allow me to meet a lot of different people, travel to different places, learn about lots of different topics. I decided on television, and I kind of got my start with a UN agency, working with a consultant there for UNDP, United Nations Development Program. I worked with him when I was in college on the weekends and really working with all the media he created. And he created media that was really there to educate people, to inform them, to activate them, to let people know in the Western Hemisphere what was going on in different parts of Africa and countries over there. I really got a sense of creating not just media, but media that matters, that has a social impact. That kind of started me on the path of going into public television. I got into public television and worked there for a number of years, really working on complex social issues, science and technology. That's where I was introduced to STEM programming, really introducing underserved communities to science, technology, engineering, and math careers, not only creating the program, but then launching the program, going beyond the broadcast, and making all of these programs accessible to people in the community. That is where strategic partnerships came in. We would develop partnerships with a lot of these communities that would use the programming. Let's say if we were doing a program on the environment or a media campaign on the environment, and we would be talking about possibly careers in the environment or challenges in the environment, we would work with groups that could be educators, scientists, community activist groups for the environment. We would work with them, and then they would work almost as our distribution system to get our materials out into the community, into their organizations. And we would work with them on coming up with workshops, doing screenings. It would really go beyond the broadcast and really have an impact in the community. That model is a very holistic 360 model, which I love. I apply that now when I'm working with clients. I help them create the program, but I also help them engage the community and sort of build an audience to get it into sort of a whole other audience that can use it.
I used to work for the Swiss mission to the United Nations. We obviously were working many times with the UNDP, and I know of the great work that they're doing. Thank you for this. And I see also in your biography, it says Generation Equality, United Nations Women's Initiative. Tell us more about that. I just published my book, Lipstick Leadership. It's about inspiring and empowering women who dare to lead. What can we learn from Generation Equality?
Yeah, that's a fascinating initiative, movement, campaign, all of the above. And it's about 2 years old, maybe a year and a half, but it's an initiative from UN Women. Really is to get women and girls topics, issues front and center at the UN. It is to create all kinds of materials to give out to community groups, NGOs, who can then use it. We could then trickle down to their community, talking really about diversity, inclusion, gender equality, and really what people need to do to ensure that more women and girls get more opportunity. They create all kinds of wonderful visuals, graphics, campaigns to bring younger people into it. They do take an intergenerational approach. It is a global campaign. You really do get women from all around the world. And of course, they all have different issues, different needs, because the women in their communities might be at a different level. They might need basic education. They might be dealing with domestic abuse. They might be dealing with human trafficking, or they might be dealing with trying to get better jobs. It's really intergenerational. It's intersectional. It's a very big campaign. I got involved with it through NGO CSW, which is CSW is the Commission on Status of Women, which is the UN's largest women's conference, second largest conference at the UN. The NGO CSW really is a parallel. They do parallel events with the UN conference. Their whole goal is to bring civil society into the discussion, to bring NGOs, organizations, educators, activists into the conversation so that their voices are heard. Their voices will be heard at the UN. Very important. It's been I've been involved about 2 years. Very interesting when we do have monthly meetings, because you do get, you could get 150 women, 170 women from all over the world.
Thank you so much for all the good work you're doing. I can only say that. I know the CSW conference is usually in March, around March 8th on the International Women's Day. Again, me working at the Swiss mission to the United Nations, we always had a huge delegation of women coming. It was always exciting. And I was part of the business professional women at one point. They also had a huge voice. And I have a friend who has an equal pay initiative. They're trying to close the gender gap. We need all that work, and we need to fight more. That's why we need you, Maura. So
I think it's great. And the UN Women are playing a very good role at the UN to keep those issues front and center. Very important group there.
What a cool life. Tell us, what were the highlights when you think about that initiative or any other initiative? It always feels like when you work on TV, it sounds so glamorous. People say like, oh, you can work globally. And I'm like, yeah, it always sounds very glamorous. But when your suitcase does not arrive on a Sunday and your presentation is on Monday, and you only have flip-flops. What do you do? Tell us a little bit about your life behind the scenes, because I think that's also very important to know. For some listeners who think like you're on the camera, you have the glamour life. I know it's a lot of work.
Television is a lot of work. Media is a lot of work. That's why I kind of pivoted to Purple Mountain Media over 10 years ago to do more client-centric work that involved media, but that did not involve me necessarily producing broadcast television shows. I had 20 years of production and traveling and suitcases and cameras and airplanes, and I kind of stepped away from that a little bit. I still do media. I do work on media startups with a colleague, and we do create different programs. We will create pilots, and we will draft scripts, and then we will create what we call a series Bible. It's like a business plan, and you create it and then you try and sell it to different companies. I kind of focus more on that versus going around the country doing television programs. It's more on the development business side of it now, which I like. I've done a number of collaborations with some colleagues, and we've gotten a lot of interest, a few scripts. We haven't sold a show yet, but we have a good one now that possibly we could sell.
Purple Mountain Media. How did that name come about? I mean, I love purple mountains. I grew up in Switzerland, and sometimes when the sun sets, I know the mountains can be purple. Why that name?
Well, they can be purple because of the heather, usually the beautiful heather on the mountains. But I grew up in Ireland, so I came to the U.S. when I was 7, and we have a home in Ireland, so we go back all the time. But Purple Mountain is one of the mountains that's in my town. It's a beautiful mountain, and I just love the name, and I said, okay, I'll select that name because it will remind me of where I come from and the town and all the great thing that Ireland has given me and still gives me.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know. Purple Mountain. Sometimes when we move to a place, we still go back to where we're from. Obviously, my Swiss mountains, I always keep them in my heart. They never go away. What an interesting talk. What are you taking away? What questions would you have for Maura on STEM, on anything? Take it from the Iron Woman. We have episodes every Monday, every Wednesday. Chime in. Like us on your preferred platform. There's something for everybody.